the Book of Mormon city of Zarahemla. Has it been found? Coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Hello everybody, and welcome to Deceptions of the Ages News. Before we go too far into things, I want to say thank you to everybody who has been subscribing and leaving comments. You know, this is one of the fastest growing channels on YouTube. So yeah, we're growing so fast, it's amazing. So I appreciate you guys subscribing, and if you want to, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's get right down into the business of what's at hand. The first thing I need to say is that if you have not seen my video yet about the amazing elongated Inca Peru skulls and the amazing research that's been done by Brian Forster and L.A. Marzulli, I'm going to leave a link. I think it's going to show up here. So just go ahead and click on that and watch that, because it's amazing that part of the Book of Mormon has already kind of been confirmed, and now we're going to talk about another part. All right, so the first thing that we want to talk about is not about exactly Zarahemla itself yet, but we want to talk about how they found it. Now, how they found it, they used a technology called Lidar, which they use GPS and an airplane basically to fly over the canopy. It's a very, very thick canopy in the jungle. Okay, so now that we know how they found this city or in the jungle, I want to show you exactly where it is. So if you'll just go ahead and watch this brief animation, this is of course Google Earth, and so what you can see is that Tikal is right centered in the country of Guatemala, and then there's the Belize on the coast and Mexico to the north, right? All right, so this new city that they found is just a little bit south and east of Tikal, and it spreads over a very, very vast area. Okay, now according to what they have discovered and what they postulate, 15 million people lived in this city or in this area at one time. And another thing that was very interesting about it is that they have found 60,000 smaller, minor stone structures that are buried underneath the canopy of the jungle. So it's an amazing find. And what is even more amazing than that is that when you start to look at the topography and the geography of where these buildings are, you begin to see a lot of correlation with the Book of Mormon accounts of the city of Zarahemla, and also when you look at the geographic location. So let's just take a look right now at where this new discovery is as far as its geographic location in the Yucatan Peninsula and Central America. So let's go look at our Google Earth map here, and we're just gonna we're zooming out here. This is Tikal, so we're gonna zoom out. And as you can see, I want you to pay very attention to the Isthmus of Panama, which is that very small, and what we're going to see in the Book of Mormon is described as a narrow neck of land, because that's going to be very important for us. All right, so we have a location that matches. We have a description of a major city that matches. And is there anything else that matches? We're going to look at the political situation among the people of the Book of Mormon in a minute. But before we do, let's just look at what the description of what they found using this LiDAR in Central America showed them. Now, when we're talking about 60,000 structures, we're talking about things like palaces for the nobility. You're talking about causeways or roads, which are going to be very important, as we're going to see in a few minutes, because of the importance of supplying things like armies in the outlying territories. And of course, the last thing they would have had were temples in the shape of pyramids. Now we have to understand that Zarahemla was not a city, but rather it was an area, okay? And that exactly correlates with what we're looking at here. Now, some other correlations that are very interesting are the, as I said, the topographical descriptions of these locations that they found outside of Tikal. Okay, so now we know where, and now we know what. So let's look at one more a surprising similarity before we jump into the Book of Mormon accounts of the same area. Now, according to this article in the Daily Mail, which is a UK publication, the technique revealed the landscape may have been home to up to 15 million individuals, and the abundance of defensive walls, ramparts, and fortresses suggests the warfare was rife. That warfare was rife throughout their existence and not just at the end. Okay, so now that we know where this new location is, and we know the description of it, and we know that it housed about 15 million people and it was a major location, let's go ahead and take a look at the Book of Mormon accounts of the city or the land of Zarahemla, and let's see if we can't find some interesting correlations. Okay, so now that we're talking about fortifications, we need to understand the descriptions in the Book of Mormon describe how earthworks were piled up, right? And then on top of these earthworks were put palisades or sharp sticks, and they fought from those. Those were called their forts. Now, these are very similar to the Mott and Bailey style castle from Europe, which I'll show you here. Now, see how there's a tower on the top, and then there's a wall down below. Now, compare that with this scripture that is from the Book of Mormon, but also is a heavy theme throughout the Book of Mormon itself. And if you just do a search in the LDS scriptures, and search for the word fortify, you are going to see the word fortify 58 times. Now, contrast the Mott and Bailey Castle of Europe with these pictures that have recently been uncovered using the Lidar. So you can see that these structures are basically mounds that can easily be fortified using those same kinds of palisades. So if we compare that again with the Book of Mormon accounts, and there are many accounts like this one throughout the Book of Mormon describing these fortifications. Okay, so now let's talk about the dates of the civilization as compared to the dates of the Book of Mormon. Now, according to this article and according to accepted research, the dates on the Maya civilization are about 1000 BC. Book of Mormon date about 550 BC. So not really equal, but there's a lot of wiggle room in there, probably either way. Now, what happened to the people that lived in Zarahemla is very important. So let's talk about that for a second. All right, so according to the researchers who have been down in Central America for a long time, the Mayan civilization began sometime around, they say, 200 AD, right? And for some reason, a basically Stone Age civilization just began to flourish, and it began to build pyramids, and it knew astronomy, and it built the pyramids in Mexico, and was able to do all kinds of intense mathematics and calculations, and established a massive empire and created calendars that were very accurate. And all of these things they were able to do within just a few hundred years. So, what happened? According to the Book of Mormon, and science doesn't really have an explanation for it, in about 70 AD, Jesus, after being crucified in Jerusalem and being resurrected, appeared to the people of Central America. And he taught them for 3 days, and then he returned, he went back into heaven. And this is reaffirmed in the gods of the Maya who were there, and of the Quetzalcoatl, which I talked about in my video about the Incas and the Viracochas. So these people somehow suddenly learned mathematics, and not only that, but they experienced a period of peace and prosperity and stopped warring with each other and turned to something positive, at least for a few hundred years. According to science, drought, whatever, ended the civilization and away it went. According to the Book of Mormon, something more drastic happened, and something maybe you will find, if you don't know anything about the Book of Mormon, you might find this very educational. According to the Book of Mormon, the people who came from Israel would have looked like your modern Jews probably, and were fair-skinned. And when they came to the Americas, through interbreeding or through something, their counterparts, their relatives, became dark-skinned. And it was this and the light-skinned people's insistence on a worship of Jesus Christ, somebody who they expected to be coming, this Messiah who would save the world and establish God's kingdom on earth. It was this belief that really annoyed their counterparts for some time. And then sometimes their counterparts, who became called the Lamanites, were much better and much more faithful than the Nephites, who became very wicked. And so in the end, they forgot about Jesus and they forgot about everything they had been taught, and they just started killing each other. So they end up, at least the lighter skinned people, according to the Book of Mormon, end up in upstate New York. Massive battle is fought there. Book of Mormon and the golden plates in which the Book of Mormon is the last book, is buried for Joseph Smith to find later. And that's what happened to the city of Zarahemla. We'll see you next time on Deceptions of the Ages News.